It looked like Caitlin Clark could be making an extreme comeback based off some new footage that has been released from Cambridge.
The basketball world just got hit with a twist nobody saw coming. Caitlin Clark, the player everyone thought was done for the year, has officially announced she's returning for the WNBA Finals. Not sitting on the bench in street clothes, not easing back into practice, no. She's suiting up, ready to compete when the lights are brightest. This is the same superstar who left fans heartbroken when she limped off with a groin injury that analysts said could take months to heal. Back then, the headlines were brutal. Clark's rookie magic derailed. The Fever season over. Critics even went as far as to call her fragile, saying the league was too physical for her style of play. And now, in one statement, she's flipped the narrative completely on its head. The confirmation didn't come from some vague report either. It was first whispered by an insider within Indiana's locker room, and then Clark herself shut down every rumor by going public. The reaction was instant chaos. Fans flooded social media with disbelief, calling it the greatest comeback twist in years. Rival fan bases immediately panicked, asking if this was even allowed under playoff roster rules. And for the Fever faithful, it was pure joy. This isn't just another player coming back from injury. This is the league's biggest draw. The face of women's basketball, reappearing at the exact moment when Indiana needs her most. Suddenly, the finals feel less like a matchup and more like a blockbuster event. The only real question left hanging is simple. Do you unleash her fully or ease her in? Either way, the entire finals just got rewritten. The craziest part of all this? Indiana was never supposed to be here in the first place. Every preseason projection had them at the bottom half of the standings. Too young, too inexperienced, too many holes in the roster. Pundits labeled them 2 years away, and most didn't even bother considering them contenders. Then Clark went down with that groin injury, and the so-called experts couldn't write them off fast enough. The Fever, they said, were finished. They weren't even worth mentioning in playoff debates anymore. But the team itself clearly didn't get that memo. Instead of folding, Indiana dug deep. Aaliyah Boston turned into the centerpiece, looking like the dominant South Carolina star who once terrorized college defenses. She muscled through double teams, controlled the glass, and gave Indiana a steady force in the paint. Kelsey Mitchell rediscovered her cold-blooded scoring touch, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot when the season was hanging by a thread. And Odyssey Sims? She became the glue. A steady veteran voice who made hustle plays, calmed down her young teammates, and brought the kind of leadership you can't teach. Together, this patched-up Fever squad clawed through the bracket, shocking everyone and punching their ticket to the finals. For most franchises, that alone would have been the story of the decade. But then came the earthquake. Clark's return wasn't just a medical update. It was a headline that dominated the sports world. Talk shows, radio hosts, and fans across the country couldn't stop debating it. Some were ecstatic, calling it destiny. Others were furious, insisting the league was bending rules. But no matter which side you're on, one fact can't be denied. The same Indiana team that proved it could survive without Clark just added her back for the championship series. That's not a storyline. It's a revolution. This isn't just a comeback. It's a seismic shift in power. Clark's return turns Indiana from nice underdog story to a legitimate title threat overnight. Before she was sidelined, the Fever weren't just competing. They were rewriting the league's narrative. Every game she played brought sold-out arenas, record-breaking ratings, and highlight reels that even casual fans couldn't ignore. Defenses had to change everything just to deal with her. Her shooting range stretches beyond the arc and forces defenders into uncomfortable positions. Her passing vision turns teammates into stars by creating easy buckets. And her leadership lifts everyone around her, making them play bigger, bolder, and more confident than ever before. Now imagine all that suddenly reloaded right before the finals tip-off. For months, critics dismissed her, saying she wasn't built for playoff basketball, saying the league was bigger than one rookie. They even mocked her when she limped away from the court. But now those same doubters have to eat their words as she steps back into the biggest stage in women's basketball. It's a nightmare scenario for Indiana's opponents. New York and Las Vegas already struggled to contain the Fever without Clark in the mix. Now they've got to prepare for her full impact, spacing the floor, breaking defensive schemes, and forcing their stars to cover more ground than ever before. And here's the part that really stings for the haters. Clark's return isn't just about points or assists. It's about presence. Even at less than 100%, she demands respect every second she's on the floor. Defenders can't sag off her, coaches can't design the same schemes, fans can't take their eyes off her. The psychological edge alone is devastating. Indiana just went from being the league's gritty survivor story to a finals juggernaut. And for Vegas and New York, it feels like they just got hit by a plot twist written by Hollywood itself. Even if Clark isn't at a full 100%, her very presence warps the game around her. Defenses can't just collapse on Aaliyah Boston anymore, because leaving Clark with space beyond the arc is basically handing her 3 points. They can't smother Kelsey Mitchell with double teams because that means Caitlin is wide open. And they can't overcommit to stopping Odyssey Sims because the second they do, Clark's vision turns into easy buckets for someone else. Every possession becomes a lose-lose choice for opposing coaches, and none of those choices are good. That's what people mean when they say gravity. Clark bends defenses before she even dribbles. But it's not just the X's and O's, it's the mental warfare. Opponents thought they dodged her. They braced themselves for a finals against Boston, Mitchell, and Sims. And then just as they were preparing to grind it out against that trio, the rug got pulled out from under them. Boom, Clark is back. The psychological hit is massive. Imagine being the Liberty or the Aces, knowing you fought all year for home court advantage, only to now face the most dangerous shooter and playmaker in the league rejoining a team that already proved it can win without her. That's not just tough, that's demoralizing before the first tip-off. And let's not overlook how Indiana played this. Leaving that 12th roster spot open looked strange at the time. Analysts called it risky, maybe even careless. But now, it looks genius. By holding back, they left the door open for a move that's shaking the league. They never officially ruled Clark out, kept her tucked away on the inactive list, and then dropped the announcement at the exact perfect moment. That wasn't luck. That was strategy. That was theater. That was Indiana turning the finals into must-watch television before the ball even touched the floor. Of course, there's risk. Nobody is pretending groin injuries are simple, they're tricky, they flare up, they sap your explosiveness and can linger for months if you rush back too soon. The Fever know that, and Clark knows that. But here's the catch. Even a limited Caitlin Clark is still a nightmare for defenses. You could stick her on one leg and she'd still draw defenders 25 feet from the rim. That respect alone opens up everything for her teammates. It's the kind of presence you can't put a price tag on, which is exactly why Indiana is willing to roll the dice. And let's be honest, the league office isn't sitting this one out either. You better believe they see the dollar signs. Finals with Clark means bigger ratings, more ticket sales, and casual fans glued to their TVs. That's not just good basketball, it's good business. The WNBA has been trying to grab mainstream attention for years. Caitlin's return in the finals is the kind of storyline they dream about, the one they can package and sell to fans worldwide. Some might call it opportunistic. Others call it smart. Either way, the decision has ripple effects that go way beyond basketball. Fans feel that too. For them, it's not just about winning a championship. It's about validation. Clark has been hacked, shoved, targeted all season long while critics mocked her toughness. Now she's stepping back into the fight on the biggest stage possible. That's not desperation, that's defiance. It's Clark and the Fever saying, "We're not scared. We're here to take it all." And whether you love her or hate her, that's a message the whole league has to hear loud and clear.
There is loopholes. There is ways for her to make a return. And if I'm the Indiana Fever, and if Caitlin Clark is truly ready to go, and y'all got one chance to win the WNBA title, there's no question y'all let Caitlin Clark come back.
The reaction online has been pure chaos. Within minutes of the announcement, clips of Clark jogging in warm-ups were racking up millions of views. ESPN pushed out notifications. X went nuclear with hashtags like Clark returns and Fever Finals trending worldwide. Even rival fan bases couldn't resist tuning in. Some in awe, others bracing themselves for the inevitable. Love her or despise her. Everyone is talking about Caitlin Clark again. And for a league that has struggled for decades to stay in the national conversation, this is priceless. But the spotlight also exposes cracks. Remember, other coaches have been fined or criticized simply for praising Clark too much. Some insiders even whispered that certain league decisions, like suspensions, fines, and officiating inconsistencies, were tied to keeping Clark's influence in check. Her return now, in the middle of the finals, doesn't just showcase her greatness. It forces the league to face those insecurities head-on. She's not just the biggest story of the playoffs, she's the biggest story in all of women's sports right now, and the league can't spin that away. And here's the scary part for Indiana's opponents. Clark makes everyone around her better. Boston suddenly has space to dominate inside. Mitchell gets clean looks instead of contested desperation shots. Odyssey Sims doesn't have to carry the weight of being the steady hand every possession. Even role players, Lexi Hull, Katie Lou Samuelson, Sophie Cunningham, become more dangerous simply because defenses can't cover everything at once. It's a ripple effect, and it terrifies opponents. Indiana already clawed its way to the finals without Clark. Now they're adding back the most impactful player in the game. That's not just unfair. That's unstoppable. And here's the part that hits hardest. Caitlin Clark isn't coming back as some ceremonial mascot. She's not jogging onto the floor just to wave at the crowd. She's suiting up in the finals, her second year in the league, and stepping right back into the fire. Think about that for a second. Most players would take the cautious route, rehab slowly, and wait for next season. Not Clark. She's built for the spotlight, and this is the biggest one of all. That's why the announcement sent shockwaves, not just through Fever Nation, but through the entire basketball world. The critics who've spent months downplaying her impact now have to eat their words. They said she couldn't handle the physicality. They said she wasn't ready for playoff basketball. They practically celebrated when she limped off weeks ago. And now, those same voices are watching her march into the finals like a warrior who refused to stay down. Fever fans have the receipts ready, pulling up every old tweet, every dismissive headline, every hot take that aged like spoiled milk. The poetic twist is impossible to ignore. Clark was counted out, buried in doubt, and yet here she is, flipping the script when it matters most. This isn't just a return. It's a statement. Finals basketball is all about pressure. Who can rise above it and who cracks under the weight? Caitlin Clark has lived under that microscope since Iowa. Sold-out arenas, national broadcasts, trolls dissecting her every move. She thrives on it. So when she steps on that final stage, it's not just another game. It's the moment she's been preparing for her entire life. And suddenly, every rival who thought they'd escape her shadow is dragged right back into it.
Based off this footage I'm about to show you, she looks like she's ready to come back.
Here's what makes her return so dangerous. Even if Clark only logs 20 minutes a night, her impact is enormous. Every defender has to account for her. Every coach has to redraw their schemes. And every fan in the building knows where she is on the floor. She warps the game just by existing. Defenses can't sell out to stop Aaliyah Boston in the post anymore because Clark will punish them from deep. They can't blitz Kelsey Mitchell on the perimeter because Clark is waiting for the outlet. And Odyssey Sims, who has been carrying a huge load, suddenly gets to conserve energy and pick her spots. That's the power of her presence. And it's not just about basketball, it's psychological warfare. Vegas and New York were preparing for one type of battle, and overnight, the entire landscape shifted. They went from confident to paranoid. Coaches are rewriting scouting reports. Players are losing sleep. Because how do you prepare for a final series when the most dangerous weapon in the league just got reactivated? Even if she doesn't drop 30 points, Clark's gravity alone tilts the chessboard. That's why this comeback feels scripted for television. It's bigger than sports. The WNBA without Clark in the finals? A good story. The WNBA with Clark returning to the finals? A cultural event. Broadcasters are already building graphics, cutting hype reels, and calling it the comeback of the year. Ticket resale prices are spiking. Casual fans who haven't watched a single game all season are suddenly clearing their schedules to tune in. Whether she scores or not almost doesn't matter. Her presence alone transforms the finals into appointment viewing. Networks know what this means too. ESPN, ABC, and every sports outlet are scrambling to give this story maximum airtime. Primetime slots are being cleared. Studio shows are bumping NFL preseason chatter just to fit in Clark's return. And that's what burns the haters the most. This comeback is bigger than their excuses. The same critics who insisted she was overrated are now scrambling to spin new narratives. She won't be at full speed. She'll ruin chemistry. Indiana's just forcing her back for ratings. But none of that matters once the scoreboard lights up. If Clark makes even a handful of impact plays in the finals, the conversation shifts instantly. suddenly she's not overhyped. She's the player who put Indiana shoulder to shoulder with the league's so-called super teams. But let's be real, the risk is massive. If she looks rusty, the critics will pounce. If she aggravates the injury, the backlash will be brutal. That's why this decision takes guts. The Fever could have played it safe, stashed her for next season, and avoided criticism. Instead, they're rolling the dice, betting on belief instead of fear. And that gamble is exactly why this moment matters. Finals history isn't written by teams that played it safe. It's written by teams that dared to go for greatness. Indiana is daring big. And whether it ends in glory or heartbreak, everyone will remember they took the risk. Think about how far Indiana has come. Just a couple years ago, this was the league's punchline. They were a lottery team stuck in rebuild mode, scraping together wins in half-empty arenas. They weren't just bad, they were irrelevant. But now, they're standing in the finals, bold enough to bet everything on the return of Caitlin Clark. That's not desperation, that's transformation. It's confidence, swagger, and belief. The Fever aren't playing scared anymore. They're playing like a team that believes it belongs on the biggest stage. And look at their opponents. Vegas, loaded with stars, has already shown cracks in this postseason. New York, as stacked as they are, still struggles with chemistry when the lights burn brightest. Neither of those super teams looks invincible. Now add Clark to Indiana's fight, and suddenly the whole balance of power shifts. The Fever aren't the underdogs anymore. They're the disruptors, the team nobody wants to face, the nightmare matchup. But here's the legacy part. Even if Clark doesn't dominate, even if she plays limited minutes, her return alone will go down as one of the most iconic moments in league history. Think about it. Year 2, already carrying a franchise, already battling injuries, and making a dramatic finals comeback. Kids will remember it. Fans will talk about it for decades. And the league? They'll have to live with the fact that the star they doubted, the star they failed to protect, became the face of their most unforgettable finals. Clark didn't need this comeback to be a legend, but she chose it anyway. Not for hype, not for marketing, but to send a message. She's here to compete. She's here to win. She's here to prove that the Indiana Fever are no longer a joke. And for the haters, that's the scariest reality of all. Because the comeback they swore wouldn't happen is happening right in front of them. And there's nothing they can do to stop it.